Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the complex language of business and finance until it makes perfect sense. Today we're diving into a filing from INSMED Incorporated that has some interesting developments, both in terms of new drug discoveries and results that might not be what they hoped for. We've got a lot to unpack, so if you are ready to see what is really going on behind the scenes, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Also, make sure you join our Discord community linked in the description below for more real-time insights and discussions. Alright, so this is an 8K filing, which is basically a company's way of telling the public about any major events that happen between their regular financial reports. Think of it like breaking news for investors. Today, INSMED is announcing some pretty significant stuff. So let's break it down. First up, INSMED released a press release on the 17th of December 2025, talking about two main things. They shared some important results from a study on a drug called Brensocatib, and they also announced they are acquiring a new investigational drug candidate called INS1148, which they want to use for certain immune and inflammatory diseases affecting the lungs. Let's focus on the Brensocatib results from what they're calling the Birch study. This study was looking at patients with chronic rhinosinusitis without nasal polyps, something often called CRSNP. It was a pretty standard setup, a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study. That means patients didn't know if they were getting the real drug or a dummy pill, and neither did their doctors to avoid bias. They tested 2 doses of Brensocatib, 10 mg and 40 mg against a placebo, which is like a sugar pill. The study ran for 24 weeks. And everyone also used a nasal spray as background treatment. The main goal or primary endpoint was to see how much the daily sinus symptom score, they call it STSS, changed from the beginning of the study to week 24. Now, this is where things get a bit less exciting than perhaps they hoped. The placebo group saw a decrease of 2.44 in their symptom score. The 10 mg Brensocatib group saw a decrease of 2.21, and the 40 mg group saw a decrease of 2.33. What does this mean in plain English? Both doses of Brensocatib performed very similarly to the placebo. They did not show a statistically significant improvement over the placebo in reducing sinus symptoms. Now, let's look at the safety side of things. The filing gives us a table showing treatment emergent adverse events, or TEAs. This basically means any bad reactions that happened after patients started taking the drug. For all TEAs, the 10 mg group saw 63.6% of patients experience one. The 40 mg group saw 69.9% and the placebo group saw 65.3%. These numbers are quite close, suggesting that Brensocatib was generally well tolerated and did not cause significantly more side effects than the placebo. Importantly, there were no new safety concerns identified, which is always a good sign. Serious TEAs were also low across all groups. So, what is the consequence of these results? The company itself has decided to stop developing Brensocatib for this specific condition, CRSNP. They plan to present these findings at a future conference. This is a critical piece of information. When a developer discontinues a drug for a particular condition, it means they don't see a viable path forward there, likely because the drug didn't perform better than existing treatments or a placebo. This can be a tough pill to swallow for investors and for the company, as it means resources that went into this project haven't yielded the desired outcome for that specific market. Switching gears, the other big news is the acquisition of INS1148. This is a monoclonal antibody, which is a type of drug that is made from living cells and is often used to target specific parts of the immune system. INSMED plans to develop this for respiratory and other inflammatory diseases that currently have high unmet medical needs. This shows the company is still actively pursuing new treatments and is looking for areas where they can make a real difference. It is a forward-looking move, aiming to fill gaps in medical care. Now, as with any filing like this, there is a section on forward-looking statements. This is legalese speak for what we think might happen in the future, but it might not. They're basically saying that while they expect certain things, there are risks and uncertainties that could change the actual outcomes. They list a bunch of potential issues, like the full data from the Birch study not matching the initial findings, or problems with future clinical trials for INS1148. They also mention the challenges of getting regulatory approval, manufacturing issues, and unexpected safety or efficacy concerns. It is a standard way for companies to protect themselves from lawsuits if their future predictions don't pan out. Finally, the filing ends with a list of exhibits. The most important one here is Exhibit 99.1, which is the actual press release that contains all the juicy details we just discussed about Brensocatib and INS1148. There is also a technical file for their electronic reporting. So what is my take on all of this? INSMED is in a bit of a mixed situation. On one hand, the discontinuation of Brensocatib for CRSNP is a clear setback. It indicates a failure to demonstrate a clear benefit over placebo in that specific indication. This can raise questions about their research and development strategy or the inherent difficulty in treating conditions like CRSNP. However, it is important to remember that drugs are often tested for multiple conditions. The failure in one doesn't necessarily mean a failure across the board. The acquisition of INS1148 is a positive sign. It shows that the company isn't sitting still and is actively seeking new avenues for growth. Investing in novel therapies for unmet medical needs is a sound, long-term strategy. The success of INS1148 will depend heavily on the execution of their development plan and the results of future clinical trials. When looking at the overall direction, INSMED seems to be navigating the inherent risks of the pharmaceutical industry. They are trying to innovate in complex disease areas, and not every drug will be a home run. The key will be their ability to learn from these setbacks like the Brensocatib results and to successfully advance their promising pipeline candidates like INS1148. Investors should be keeping a close eye on the progress of INS1148 and any other research programs the company is pursuing. The risk factors mentioned in the filing are standard for this industry, but they do highlight the unpredictable nature of drug development. Alright, that is our breakdown of INSMED Incorporated's latest filing. What is your take on these results and what they signal for the company's future? Do you think the acquisition of INS1148 will be a game changer? Drop your thoughts in the comments below if this analysis was valuable. Hitting that like button really helps us out, and subscribing ensures you don't miss future deep dives. And remember to join our Discord community linked in the description for more exclusive content. Thanks for watching. See you next time.